if I want to find the area between curves, what I do is take these two functions. So I've got the blue line, which is running down here. If I find the area, underneath that blue line, that's that triangle. If I find that total area, and then I find the area underneath the red line, the curve, which is this area here, and subtract it, I'll get the area between the curves. So if I want to find the area between curves, I find the area underneath one and the area underneath the other. I need to be able to visualize it to know which one to take away from which, so sketching the curve will often help. And then I subtract one from the other and away, and I've got the area between the curves. What's my problem, though, before I can even start this integral? To be able to find this area between these two curves, I need to know what that point is here. What that point is, where these functions cross, and this point where the functions cross. So then I can integrate between those 2 points. If I integrate the blue function between those 2 points and then the red function between those 2 points and take one away from the other, I'll have the area between the curves. The problem is, how do I find those 2 points? How do I find the limits? I know the red function, it's 3x squared, and I know the blue function, it's 2x plus 1. These points are where 3x squared equals 2x plus 1. So to find the limits, I have to solve this problem. 3x squared equals 2x plus 1. I have to find the values of x that will satisfy that equation. If I take the 2x plus 1 over to the left-hand side, minus 2x minus 1 equals 0, you might recognize that as a quadratic equation that needs solving. We've looked at solving quadratic equations, and when we do so, we get 2 roots, 2 values for x, and they will give us our 2 values for x where these functions cross. Our limits, in other words. So how do I find the roots? I remember that x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The quadratic formula. If you're required to use it in the exam, you'll be given it. You're not expected to remember it, but you will need to be able to use it. Remember, for this quadratic formula to work, the right-hand side must be 0, so you've got to shift everything over to the left-hand side, which we've done. And the quadratic formula, what are a, b and c? They are the coefficients of these numbers. A is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is the number on its own. So I know that a equals 3, b equals minus 2, don't forget the negative sign, and c equals minus 1. So I now plug them into this quadratic formula. And if I were putting these numbers into the quadratic formula, I'd be very careful about signs, certainly if b and c, like they are negative. So I'd be tempted to literally rewrite this quadratic formula and put the numbers in brackets and then worry about the signs afterwards. Minus b, what's b? Minus 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is minus 1, over 2 times a, which is 3. I'd certainly, be tempted to do that sort of thing to make sure I didn't make any mistakes. Minus times a minus is a plus, so that's plus 2 2 squared is 4. If you're aware of this next point, then don't worry, but if you're not, minus 2. If I put minus 2 inside a calculator and hit the squared button, what do I get? If I hit minus 2 on the calculator and then hit the square button, I get minus 4, which is wrong. The calculator, if you're not careful, you'll go wrong at this point by putting minus 2 in and then squaring it. You'll get minus 4, and that will give you a wrong answer. That will happen, and the calculator will throw you out there. So remember, I just always remember that whenever I square a negative number, it's going to be positive. So I just ignore the negative sign here and put 2 squared in to get the 4. Or in this case, I know what 2 squared is, it's just 4. So that's, be careful. Somebody will make that mistake. It happens all the time. The calculator, for some reason, it's not doing it wrong. It's just putting the minus sign in front of the 2 and just squaring the 2. It's as though it thinks you mean minus whatever 2 squared is. So actually, to do it properly, I'd have to put the minus 2 inside a bracket and then square that, and it would then give me the correct answer. But you're likely to forget to do that. So with that in mind, that's always going to be positive. So 2 squared is 4. Minus 4 times minus 1 is going to be positive. So if I've got 2 negatives here, that makes that plus 4 3s are 12 over 6. So actually x turns out to be 2 plus or minus the square root of 16, which is a nice easy answer, over 6. But I could do it on the calculator. Square root of 16 is 4, plus or minus 4 over 6. So I've got 2 values for x now. Remember why this plus or minus is here, because whenever I square root a number, the answer is always positive or negative. So that gives me 2 possibilities. When I square root the 16, it could be plus or minus 4. That gives me my 2 answers. So x then turns out to be 2 plus 4 is 6 over 6, which is 1, or 2 minus 4 is minus 2 over 6 is minus a third. So I've got x equals 1 or minus a third. So now going back to here, I now know what these limits are. I'm confirming that that's 1, x is 1, but now I know this is minus a third. So I know the 2 points where these lines cross. And now what I'm going to do is integrate the blue function between 1 and minus a third, and the red function, 3x squared, between 1 and minus a third, and then take one answer away from the other.